What improved your quality of life so much you wish you did it sooner? Story 1. Learning to be okay with saying no and starting off all relationships, personal and professional, with healthy boundaries. You don't ever need an excuse to say no if you don't want to do something. Don't feel like going out with friends that night? No, thank you. Don't want to work an extra shift at your place of employment if it's not mandatory? No thanks, boss. Boundaries are amazing, and when set from the beginning, they're much easier to maintain for your own mental well-being. Agree. And to add to this, a big thing is actually just saying no rather than avoiding the situation by not confronting it. I remember in my mid-20s when my social life started to change, people just getting busier or getting married, etc. I can't even begin to tell you how many invites to hang out, or when I asked if someone could do something, I just got ignored. One time, a friend said she wouldn't respond to invites if she couldn't or didn't want to go, and I'm just like, do you have any idea how bad people feel when they're just ignored? Seriously, it crushed me when people just didn't respond or blew off my invites. I stopped inviting them to do things and friendships fizzled out. However, I do remember the people who would say things like, "This weekend doesn't work for me. Let me know about next time," or "I don't really like hiking, but thanks for the invite." Givers have to set limits because takers don't have any. The only people who get upset at you having boundaries are the people who benefited by you having none. People suck at this one so much. I see it all the time at work. We're salaried, no overtime required, and I'm always seeing people working a stupid amount of hours. I put my 8 hours a day in and go home, or log off from work from home during COVID. I have seen some coworkers putting in 50 to 60 plus hours on a regular basis when it's not even required. Oh sure, they'll find an excuse. I committed to finishing X by Friday, but the reality is that the work will still be there tomorrow, and there's always more work to do. Or they take on extra work, but that's not really their job, trying to help out one time, and they get asked again and again, and eventually that extra work just becomes their responsibility. The more you do, the more that's expected. So eventually you're expected to produce an amount of work that takes 60 hours a week, and it's just not sustainable. These people burn themselves out for no reason. There's nothing wrong with working extra because of an emergency or on occasion or helping someone out if you have time. But regularly giving in turns this into a new expectation. Companies will take as much as you will give them and pay you as little as possible in the process. Set your boundaries and stick to them, or you're going to regret it later. I used to pride myself as being an empath, one in tune with others' emotions, absorbs energy, and etc. Therapists said, "Nope, you just have really shy boundaries." Changed my whole life. I think with the writers and the actors strike, and with a possible upcoming UPS strike, we're starting to see more of this setting boundaries. And what happens when people just assume that your giving extra is just going to be the new norm. I like that one part that said givers have to set limits because takers don't have any. I've never heard that before, but that's really well said. Story 2. Automating simple yet time-consuming tasks like Excel macros. You wouldn't realize how much time you save beforehand, but it sure saves heaps. Excel is a huge part of my work. Where do I learn this stuff? Thank you. A good starting point is to enable the developer ribbon in Excel. Google it. It's easy. Next, don't bother trying to write any VBA. Just record a macro for a simple but repetitive task, like moving to a certain cell and pasting. Recording a macro is as easy as pressing the record button, doing a few things in Excel, and pressing the stop button. Now, every time you run that macro, it repeats what you recorded. You can assign a keyboard shortcut to launch it. Again, Google is your friend. Next, look at the VBA behind the macro you just made. That's what you'll be writing yourself once you learn a bit more. Mess around with the code. See what happens when you change bits. This will give you a feel for it. Once you're at this stage, start reading beginner-level tutorials on VBA. You can record something similar to what you want, then fine-tune it for a lot of tasks, so you don't need to be an expert to build some really useful macros that can literally shave hours off your day. Well, I picked up the most from my internships and early analyst days, but that's because I had prior coding background. I once worked in software development and QA. I was told from recent recruits that they've learned macro and VBA from YouTube or LinkedIn Learning tutorials. You could also ask your firm whether they provide these types of skill training. And I believe that is something very useful. I use spreadsheets a lot to track all of my work. I have a few little equations set up for certain things. But I'll have to start thinking about what kind of macros or VBA might help me out in keeping track of all this stuff. Story 3. Independent blankets for my wife and I in bed. Incredible how much better you sleep when there's no waking up with blankets pulled half off or using one that's too heavy or too light. I'd highly recommend for anyone that sleeps with a significant other. We're setting up 2 twin beds head to head. He has nerve damage and twitches at night. We also are opposites on the hot and cold scale. I think this will let us hold hands and talk, but have our own microenvironment. If you make them bunk, though, you'll have so much more room for activities. My girlfriend and I were flatmates before we started dating. We've been a couple for nearly a year now, but still have the 2 separate bedrooms. When we first started dating, we talked about how great it's going to be that we can move into the bigger room and turn the other one into a studio, craft room, office, whatever. And eventually, we realized that we really, really like having separate beds to sleep in. We can have intimacy in either room, cuddle for hours, and watch a movie after, etc. But then, when it comes time to actually sleep, we can go our separate ways and get a good quality, uninterrupted night of sleep. If one of us just needs a nap while the other is doing something in the room, we just go to the other bedroom and sleep. If we need some time to ourselves for any reason, the other room is there. We have sleepovers in each other's rooms sometimes, and it feels fresh and fun every time because it's not the norm. It's like living together and having our own place all at once. I feel like we've reinvented the wheel with how well it's worked for us so far. For some people, that works out great, and I don't think that should be stigmatized in any way. I think it just comes from watching TV when it was actually not okay for even married couples to be shown sleeping in the same bed together. I mean, even if you remember I Love Lucy, they had separate beds. I think that's kind of an old-time thing that maybe we should look at. It's worked for them. Story 4. Flossing. I never saw the dentist as a kid, and no one really pushed me to or cared about my dental health. As an older person who had poor dental hygiene growing up, keep at it. Getting old sucks as it is, but it's even worse when you have a problem that could have been avoided. As a kid, I got braces, and any flossing I did stopped completely right there since it was too annoying to work around them. Once I got them off, I overheard a relative of mine talking about how his dentist told him he'd have no teeth if he didn't start flossing, and for some reason, that stuck with me. However, I still really hated flossing my back teeth with floss alone, so I began looking for flossing picks and ended up finding a great one specifically designed to assist in getting the back teeth, Dentec Easy Reach Floss Picks. Ever since buying those, there have been nearly no days where I missed flossing. While I would strongly recommend anyone who hates using string alone to look into flossers, and I would like to endorse these picks, there is a slight issue. They redesigned them recently, and I have not had a chance to use the new design. Just looking at them, I can tell they still have the good shape for back teeth flossing, and they seem fine, but the floss quality was changed, and I haven't tried the new floss yet, so I don't know how good they currently are. Story 5. I was very shy and self-conscious, but at some point I started just living how I wanted. I already wasn't popular, so what was I risking? Girls still wouldn't be interested? I guess I just started doing things I'd been afraid to do before, including being more outgoing. I know this sounds like generic advice, but it really worked for me. Every time your brain says, no, that wouldn't work, or no, what would people think, or any other version of no, don't try. It's a perfect opportunity to do something you feel drawn to. Dye your hair pink. Try painting, even though you know you'll suck at it. Fart and then say, "It was me." Okay, maybe not the last one. How do you shut off that self-conscious voice that thinks it knows the outcome of every situation? There's always something telling me why I shouldn't or can't do something I'm scared of. For me, it took acknowledging my own adulthood and really truly gripping the fact that even if I messed up, once I decide I'm going to do it, I'll do it and deal with the consequences. I work in R&D. I still have to remind myself that for every one project that goes right, there are going to be 99 that flop and just don't go the way I want. But if I don't do those other 99 and learn from them, I'll never get that magical happy feeling when it hits the bullseye. Being scared is fine. Being so scared that it prevents you from living requires a lot of willpower to overcome. Story 6. Cutting out toxic friends. After years of knowing someone, it can be hard to see that they're no longer the person they were when the relationship started. My childhood best friend grew into a manipulative, selfish jerk. For years, I hung out with him almost every day after work and always felt miserable afterwards. Everyone around me questioned why I still spent time with him. I always made excuses that seem ridiculous in hindsight. I should have cut ties 10 years ago. I'm struggling with making this transition. One of my best friends growing up is honestly an immensely selfish person today. It pains me knowing that when I make this next change, there's a real possibility that they'll pretty much stop existing in my life. I know it has to happen because it would be the best for me, but the fear of losing an old friend is crippling. The reality is they're already lost, and I need to move on for my own well-being. Unfortunately, people change. And at least it's good that these people recognize the kind of toxic behavior these people are exhibiting. It is painful to lose something that you know that you grow up with, but at least they're open to the idea that doing something like this will be better for their life overall. That's what this whole video is about. Story 7. Cutting out alcohol. I don't criticize anyone who drinks, but I was a problem drinker. Stopping that cycle improved everything about my life. I quit just over 8 months ago. I don't feel terrible every morning. I have way less anxiety. I'm a better dad. Just happier overall. Me too. It took me a long time to figure out some people just can't drink, and I was one of them. Can't do 2 beers. 2 beers turns to 15 real quick. 1 is too many and 15 isn't enough, right? I haven't quit drinking, but I've more or less quit getting drunk. Yes, it changes things. I'm the same way. I still drink occasionally, but usually limit myself to 2 drinks. I realized that basically 99% of my most embarrassing instances and moments of bad judgment were when I was drunk. Story 8. Taking vitamin D supplements and getting a therapy lamp for the winter. Holy hell, does it make a difference? I realized after my first year of university that the reason I didn't do well in the winter semester was because I was feeling depressed and exhausted due to the lack of sunlight. I live in Canada, so the days are way shorter in the winter. So when you leave before the sun rises, get home after it sets, and wear a coat all day so your skin is exposed to no sunlight, you miss a lot of vitamin D. So I take vitamin D supplements each morning to make up for what I'm missing, and I use a therapy lamp to simulate sunlight in the morning. You feel way more energized and awake during the day. I would highly recommend it to anyone who feels exhausted in winter. P.S. If you're interested in a therapy lamp, look up SAD lamp or seasonal affective disorder lamp. I take a bunch of vitamins, but all could be hogwash except vitamin D. It's the only one I notice if I don't take it. Good stuff, and cheap. Story 9. Working from home in IT. Hell, this environment and industry fits me like a glove. Work from home is amazing. I can't imagine ever wanting to commute for work again. No more losing time, money, and sleep. I love having ownership over my schedule. I went back to office work half the time. It's nice to see everyone, but once I start working, I hate it. 99% of people spend a maximum of 6 hours a day working. The times sitting at my desk for images between 3 to 5 are absolutely brutal. Everyone can see my desk and laptop, no online or anything. I grind away for 6 hours to scroll through the same stuff I've seen on LinkedIn 100 times. At home, I'm more comfortable. Can get a lot of administrative or busy work done when I have a TV show or movie I've seen a million times playing in the background. For serious, need to be on top of it. I have my basement. Forget driving in the car for over an hour every day to say hello to people. I am so fortunate I can work from home. And any job, most jobs that I've worked at, and it's not just voiceover, I could have done them from home, but they always had their excuses as to why it wouldn't work. And I don't ever want to go back because it just feels like wasted time getting up and driving through traffic to go somewhere else. Story 10. Sleeping when I'm sleepy. Instructions unclear. Fired from work. Let me introduce you to car naps. At my office, pretty much every new parent coworker would eat a quick lunch, then sit in their car and nap, or take a 20-minute coffee break in their car. You knew the car nappers because their cars would be parked in a lot that was not quite visible from the office due to some trees and the spots were shaded. My problem is I'm always sleepy. Drink more water. Fatigue is one of the first symptoms of mild dehydration. If that doesn't help, ask a doctor. Story 11. Letting my pride and ego take hits. I used to have been such a me person in my early life. When I allowed myself to be taken down a peg or two, I started having new perspectives on life and people around me. It's a great lesson for young people. If you're wrong about something, don't double down on it. Just admit fault, learn, and keep it moving. We all make mistakes. Let's quit pretending we're somehow better than everybody else. This is such a hard one to get people to change. Partially because of egos, but largely because it's super ingrained in everyone that it's horrible to contradict something you've said in the past. Like you're either a liar or you must not have strong convictions. It's like personal growth is actively frowned upon, unfortunately. Story 12. 43 years old. Started exercising regularly again, 4 times a week. Forget the physical benefits for a minute. The mental benefits outweigh the gains all day. This is exactly why I finally took up exercise. I never considered myself a fitness girl by any means, but last winter, my mental health took such a hit that I had to try something, and I liked it so much I'm still sticking with it. I must have spent a good 3 years of my 30s thinking it was all downhill from here. Minor aches and pains that add up, sore bones and joints. Turns out I was just being lazy and getting fat. I'm in my 40s now. Exercise daily. Lift weights 5 days a week and mountain bike twice a week and just ran 6 miles this last weekend. In better shape now than at any point in my 30s and feel great, so why did I ever let myself feel like a sloth before?
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 13. I cut my mother out of my life a few years ago, and I wish I had done it as soon as I moved out, just as I did to my father. My life has been so much better since she hasn't been in it. I feel better about myself. I'm not treated badly, and I can do what I want without fearing judgment. I'm glad I never reconciled either. From what I hear from siblings, she hasn't changed a bit. She still has to be right all the time, still lies about stuff, and she still pulls authoritarian hogwash. I've pretty much written her off. She has 7 years left to come to me, apologize for the nasty stuff she did, take responsibility for aforementioned actions, and prove she's changed, or is in the process. But if she doesn't do that within the next 7 years, there's no way in hell I'd reconcile with her. Story 14. Roomba. Oh my goodness, not having to sweep dog or cat hair daily is such a blessing. Real talk, I don't know a single damn person with pets who has one, and I need an objective opinion. Does that stuff really pick up all the cat hair? I've got 4 fuzzy beasts at home, and I really do want a little vacuum 2D2, but could not convince myself to drop the cash on one only for it to struggle to keep up. How frequently do you have to maintain it? Maintain? You mean empty the tray? Because of the amount of hair, I try to do it every run. The first time you run it, you'll have to clean it out 3 to 4 times as it runs. My cat and dog shed like crazy, And yes, it picks it up very well. It also pushes the cat's toys under the couch, though. Story 15. Throwing out all my socks and buying a single type. No more looking for pairs. Tried this. It was a great short term, but my washer/dryer broke. Started using a public laundromat, and somehow, not only am I losing socks, but I'm gaining other socks I've never seen before. I think the damn dryers are eating and regurgitating other socks, and it's super annoying. I did this a few years back, and it was a game changer. I still have 3 types, though. Calf height black socks for office work, calf height white socks for outdoors work and boots, white ankle socks for casual wear or workouts. Laundry day is easy peasy for my stuff. It's the 47,000 different kinds and colors of socks that my kids have that's the problem. Story 16. Buying a wardrobe of good quality, properly fitting clothes that I actually like. Agonizing over what to wear every morning because this doesn't fit properly, this one has a stain, I just wore that yesterday. I don't like how this sits on my body, would start my day off very badly. For me, the big thing was realizing that the size I buy doesn't matter. It's how it fits. I have some tops that are a size S. I have some tops that are an XL. Who the hell cares what size is on the label? Don't stick to one size because that's your size. If you like something, try on different sizes and find out which suits you best. Story 17. You young kids will think this is crazy, but I'm glad to have gotten older. All those things that worried me when I was in my 20s just don't matter anymore. I'm 67 now and much happier. Totally agree. 53-year-old woman here, a hottie in my youth. The relief and freedom with not feeling like my worth is dependent on my looks is palpable. I stopped dyeing my hair during quarantine, and now I have this wild silver streak in the front that I love. I think I'm going to grow it long again and fully rock the witch vibe. Why? Because I'm old enough to no longer give a care about other people's judgment. Also, a lot more substantial lessons about life and living and unaliving. Story 18. Accepting at 28 that I was a very emotional guy and letting myself cry whenever I needed to. I swear I cried constantly for about a year straight, as if catching up on all the feelings I repressed my whole life. However, it tapered off about a year ago, and it kind of sucks. It's as if I literally grew thicker skin through truly allowing myself to feel the painful things I felt, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to cry like I used to. It felt really good to just let everything out. Hell yeah, brother. I was 28 when I realized that stuff myself. I also realized I'm a romantic motherfriender. There's good things about being more sensitive. Story 19. Breathing exercises. Focusing on really deep exhales. After about 10 minutes, my whole outlook for the day changes. I went back to find this comment. I read this and thought I'd try it. I didn't think I'd even make it 10 minutes. A half hour later, I felt almost high off oxygen. I'm writing to let you know that I feel much calmer now. Thanks for the breath of fresh air. Story 20. Deleting all the people from high school I don't see anymore from social media. I did this too. Was one of my best decisions. Social media has never been a kind place for me. Deleting social media altogether. No Facebook, no Twitter, only limited amounts of Reddit. Does wonders. What's this limited amount of Reddit you speak of? Story 21. Learning to get over myself. Nobody cares what I do. Nobody is looking at me, and why should I care if they are? Nobody outside my circle has enough context to make accurate judgments about how I live. So why am I trying so hard to justify my decisions? As soon as I adopted that mindset, being alive got significantly less awful. I do my best to be a decent person and take care of myself, and the only opinions I care about are mine, my partner's, and my therapist's. Story 22. Quitting smoking. I couldn't imagine life without it back then, but man, is life better without a constant need like that. Not to mention all the health benefits. Me too. I can walk and run and go upstairs without wheezing now. I like being able to laugh without coughing, too. Story 23. Drinking more water. When I got my first quote-unquote real job, I still had no money. The options for something to drink at work were either paying for a soda or water, which was free. One day of drinking water all day, no coffee, no soda, just water, and I had this, holy hell, I've just been thirsty for the past 25 years moment, and I've never looked back. Water. Or beer. That's it. Story 24. Getting your teeth fixed. I'm ready to get my teeth fixed for good and spend all my savings doing it, but my father is holding me up trying to find a cheaper alternative. He doesn't understand how much of an impact it has on my self-esteem. I'm almost going behind his back and just doing it. Story 25. Bought a cart that carried my groceries from the car to my apartment. No more trying to carry 5 bags in each hand. I read this as if the cart is automated and takes them by itself, but I don't think it's what you meant. If it is, then where do I buy one? Story 26. Seeing a therapist. My dad passed away when I was 16, and I never saw or really talked to anyone about it till I was in my 30s, so many years wasted being angry and sad. How did you go about finding a therapist who matched you? Story 27. Losing 200 pounds. Someone give this man 200 pounds back. Thank you for making me almost choke on my food. Lifting weights changed my life. I dropped 80 pounds. Now I can't walk because I dropped it on my foot. Story 28. Selling my house. Don't get me wrong, home ownership is great at times, but I was drowning in debt and selling the place allowed me to reset my entire life. A huge weight was lifted from my shoulders overnight. Also, no more mowing the lawn. Story 29. Eating healthy. It's amazing after you realize how much you feel like hell after you just took down a double cheeseburger, extra large fries, and a large Coke, but at the time you don't realize it and just think you're tired. Good eating habits and exercising changed my life. Story 30. Yoga. I'm an old guy and discovered it at age 56 in 2005. By now I'm still not terribly proficient, but yoga has kept me limber. More importantly, it's been amazing for improving my peace of mind. Whenever somebody asks why I practice yoga, I reply, for peace of mind. Story 31. Starting antidepressants. I am literally a different person than I used to be. In a good way. I feel more confident in myself, more caring about other people, while still having very defined boundaries. Life-changing. Story 32. Permanently placed my phone on Do Not Disturb. Allow calls from contacts. This one change saved me from constant disruptive unwanted calls. Life is good on No Ring Lane. I did something similar. I turned off push notifications for pretty much every app. Story 33. It's actually amazing how much more energy and satiation I get from homemade unsweetened oatmeal versus the stuff from the packet. Story 34. Working remotely. Spending money on gas, parking, clothes, etc. Just not worth it for most of my pre-remote working life. Story 35. Exercise. Deity damn it, there it is. I never want it to be here, but it always is. Story 36. Hiking in the mountains. Nothing makes me feel more at peace and excited at the same time. Story 37. I stopped caring. Not everyone is going to like you. All you need to do is like yourself. Story 38. Giving up the hormonal contraceptive pill. I don't feel crazy anymore. Story 39. Committing myself to a mental hospital and subsequent treatment. Story 40. Getting my finances in order. It's life on easy mode now. Story 41. LASIK. Best $4,000 I ever spent on myself. Story 42. Buying a good knife for cooking. Story 43. Moving out of my parents' house. Story 44. Sobered up. 2 years.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.